Welcome back to Ben Salutes. Well, I have been ranting about modern Disney Channel and how bad the shows are on the channel now, but believe it or not, Disney Channel wasn't always the teen sitcom nightmare it is today. Back then, it used to have a lot of variety in its shows, but I'm going to focus on its cartoons because I'm the cartoon guy. I love cartoons the best. Back then, their cartoons had a lot of variety and plots, and they weren't always the same thing over and over again. Not a teenager going to high school or anything like that. No teenage singers, no nothing. It had variety. So I want to talk about the Disney Channel shows that I grew up with as a kid. So here's my salute to the old Disney Channel. The first show I'm going to talk about is DuckTales. DuckTales is about Donald's nephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, who move in with Uncle Scrooge after Donald gets drafted into the Navy. Uncle Scrooge is the richest duck in the world, and he wants to stay rich that way. He's so cheap, never leaves a penny on the street, he's always picking up change, and known for diving in his coins collection without ever breaking his neck. So anyway, on Scrooge's quest to stay the world's richest duck, he always finds maps to treasures, and he and his nephews always go on treasure hunts. Meanwhile, they're being antagonized by the evil Magic Kid, who is always trying to get Scrooge's money, and her henchmen, the Beagle Boys. So, DuckTales is a pretty cool show. The treasure hunts are very interesting to see because it leads to nice locations and cool booby traps. Do I even need to mention it has one of the most addicting theme songs ever? DuckTales! Woo! Oh man. So, DuckTales was great. It was one of the first shows in this block called the Disney Afternoon that would set the tone for shows to follow. Next, Darkwing Duck. Darkwing Duck is my favorite of Disney Channel shows. It's about a duck who is a stay-at-home father by day, but by night he's an evil crime fighter. Darkwing Duck is basically a parody of comic books at the time because it's more of a comedy superhero series than a regular superhero series. Darkwing Duck is debatable as being a parody of Batman, and his villains are parodies of other. The villains are parodies of comic book villains at that time. But Darkwing Duck was always my favorite because I remember watching this every day before I went to bed, and I could not get enough of it. I always loved Darkwing. I always loved the funny moments and the cool villains, and not to mention the nice action scenes. Darkwing Duck was very good. I recommend it, and I'm glad to say that I own the two DVD collections that came out. Where's Volume 3? Come on, Disney. Listen to me. Where's Volume 3? Us DW fans, we need it. Release it! Next show, Aladdin the series. Fresh off the movie, this takes place where the movie left off. Although it's not as good as the movie it's based off of, it's pretty interesting that, anyway, it stars Aladdin and his friends, and there's always situations in Agrabah, and they're responsible for getting rid of them. It's pretty interesting because they fight a lot of cool and fantasy-like creatures from small to big, and it's cool to see the kind of plots they can dig out of this. Like, I remember one episode where a villain casts a spell on Agrabah, causing everybody to fall asleep. That's kind of interesting, actually. Yeah. So, Aladdin the series was great. What's also great about it is having the genie always having his funny lines and always being a funny character. Aladdin the TV series was great. May not be as good as the movie it's based off of, but heck, it's probably better than other shows based off movies. Next show, one of Disney's most bad one of Disney's most awesome shows ever, Gargoyles. Gargoyles is a very original idea. It's about these stone gargoyles who by day they are stone, but by night they're crime fighters. So anyway, an ancient tale goes that gargoyles were the defenders of a castle in ancient Scotland. And so, when the gargoyles were casted a spell and turned to stone forever, they were never turned real again until the castle that they were turned to stone on was over the clouds. A mad billionaire built the tower above the clouds, and so now the gargoyles are living again. But the billionaire also becomes the gargoyles' main villain. The gargoyles try hard to fit in with everybody, but everybody's prejudiced against them because they're considered monsters to them. But they're aided by this police officer who is friends with them. So anyway, Gargoyles was cool, and Gargoyles was always cool. And the only thing I didn't like about it was some of the gargoyles were named after landmarks in New York City. Sure, that's okay, but I really wish they came up with better names because I really would hate to refer to something cool as a gargoyle by the name of Broadway or Lexington or something like that. Gargoyles was cool. It had mature writing, good action scenes, and it appealed just as good for adults as it was for children. That's why Gargoyles was cool. So there's a handful of the Disney Channel shows I grew up with. I would talk about more, but those are the ones I seem to remember watching the most. But here's some honorable mentions. Sure, I didn't mention them in this video, but they're still awesome. There's Tailspin, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Bonkers, and Timon and Pumbaa. Well, actually, hold on. Yeah, Timon and Pumbaa. Yeah, there's another good show right there. Basically, fresh off The Lion King, Timon and Pumbaa it's just a regular comedy duo show starring the funniest characters from The Lion King, in my opinion. That show was always, I remember that show always being funny and whatnot. Yeah, it was pretty good. Well, there has been another edition of Ben Salutes. Old Disney Channel, we miss you. You don't know how much we miss you. This is Ben signing out.